Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's February 26th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and it was mostly all uphill today. Notice we had a little uptrend, and then after the open we corrected. And notice where this came back to. You can see the bigger trend here. I'm gonna back out some. This was a nice trend from here on up, but notice this double top here. This resistance, and notice when we moved through we never came back and tested it. So before the market moved forward it came back and tested that. So if you get a trend moving up from there, there's a good chance it's going to go higher. I would at least look for a minimum of a measured move, but we got a lot more than that on this move here, so I'd at least look for that. You see that puts you way up here at 2778 or so, but you can see we went a good bit further than that. So this was a good, really pretty good trading day. So really all you needed was your short-term stuff. It looks like there's probably a bigger channel in here. You can see I drew this line off this brown line off the top, and I drug it down the bottom, and it fit right here, but it never really came back in play till almost 3 o'clock. So, and you can see it got confirmed right there, and so it would have helped you with that trade, but it's after 2 o'clock, so it just didn't really help you. But it's always something to look for because you never know when it will help you. So I don't think you really need that. It just kind of gets in the way. So you got a trend up, close outside, move to a new high. You got a trend down, you got a close outside. It tried to go lower and then reversed, but it bounced off this retest area here. And if you look at this one real closely, we did get a little bit of an overshoot there and maybe one there. And so you could maybe argue you got a little overshoot on this one. But I'm not 100% convinced that maybe this is two-tiered. It could be that this is really right here and that we had a break. And you see it does fit fairly well in there, including the midline. So maybe we got a break and two legs down. If it is, I just misread it. To be honest with you, this looks correct, and maybe I was off a little bit, but I had it played where we were up here, and but now looking back at it, I think we had a close outside and two pretty much measured legs down to a new low. It didn't really hurt you here. You still had a little second entry short here, and it reversed. So. But you got your scalp before it reversed, so it shouldn't have hurt you even if you read it the way I read it. So, but yeah, in the end, I believe that we had a close outside here and two perfect measured legs down, and then we reversed. So, well, I deleted my line there. Let me put it back. It doesn't really matter, but there it is. And something that was really kind of interesting today was being stuck in this little real tight range right before the open and then on into the open. So it was kind of odd. There really wasn't a big news item. I know that I think there was a Fed speaker speaking at 8, but I mean, that kind of stuff doesn't generally affect the market that time of day. But maybe people were scared to, I don't know, but it looks like we were going into a news event that didn't happen till after 8:30. So, but I do not believe there were any high volatility news items today. So who knows? Anyway, it was just kind of odd that early in the morning, because usually that's when you get most of your movement, early in the morning, and then you might see something like that late in the afternoon. So it was just kind of an odd morning. But anyway, you had to be patient this morning. You didn't really get a trade till right at the open. You might could have argued for this one. But let me back out and a little further, and we'll go through the trades. Like I said, when I came in, we'd been in this little tight range forever here. And again, you might argue for this one, just simply because we've tested that level several times. And at that point, we'd closed way down here. So you might be thinking, hey, we got even more room to get out. It would have worked no matter regardless, so you could argue for that one. I was a little leery of it, to be honest, so I didn't mark it. I didn't want to take it. I was just a little leery of it. When we came back, I liked entering here, and then we finally got one to the low side. I mean, we traded up into this, so you would figure if we succeed, we're probably going higher. And so you wanted to try to find one near the bottom, and we finally got one here, and it takes off. You don't know that it's going to take off. You're just looking for that scalp, but if you hung on here, this would have taken off big time. And notice we move up, and look how far away we are from the EMA. There's been a breakout here. I really, if you know, it's a little bit aggressive, so I'll make it green, but I wouldn't have a problem entering right there. I'll be honest with you. I usually don't like to mark them because people try to pick tops and bottoms, usually mess it up. The sure thing was right here. Notice that we worked back down, we pushed through the EMA, we pulled back. There's a first entry long, pull back. There's a second entry long, it fails quickly, and so we don't care what the signal bar looks like there because it's a failed second entry. Plus, it's a second entry counting off the low, so that was pretty much a sure thing. We had another chance maybe right here. It went higher and then turns and goes down, but look where it gets hung right there at that double bottom. And so, and it ends up being a more bullish bar. So when it tries to go lower again and fails, and now that's a double test there. As long as you got room to get out, I like going long. You don't have a whole lot of room there. Notice it actually went out this side first and turned and went up. And if you went long right there, you'd had plenty of room. If you went long here, then it's really questionable. So you really couldn't. That's the reason I drew this greens, because you really couldn't enter here. You had to enter back here. And if you waited on it to come back and fill you there, you would have got burned. So if it breaks below these lows, you probably want to be out of it, you know. So but when it failed to go higher again there, even though you would have got a scalp if you played it properly, I still like taking that back down to the other side. It's not a great signal bar, and so that's why I marked it green. But it is a failed second entry long, and so if you think you got enough room to get out down here, which you probably would have, because I would have had this move down a little by then, you got enough room right there, and so I wouldn't have had a problem. I would rather see a double test up here before I entered off this high with or either that or a better signal bar. But if you got in this one, it turned out to be a nice trade. And I would look for a measured move. I'd have had measured that one first, and then look for one right there, and you can see. And then when we went lower again, I would have measured that again, and it's another perfect measured move. But we moved down, and we got to close 2 legs back to the EMA to the trend line. There's a second entry short, but the main thing is there's a new high here, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. So I like going short there on a failure, especially right off that trend line. Of course, the way I had it, the trend line was higher, so it was just really off the EMA, and it's just like a double test of that level. And so I like that one, just looking for one more push down. And if I had read it properly over here, when we came back, we probably would have turned down again, but we didn't. We just kept on going. So it might depend on how you read this too. If you read this with a break and a new low, the fact that it's a trap, I still wouldn't, and with enough room here, I wouldn't have any problem. But after that, if you've got a break and a new low down here, you need to be careful about any more shorts. So just keep that in mind. But one good thing today is all these really short-term trend lines to the upside played out perfect. And so you kind of had a good idea when the market was going to reverse. As this one, you're moving up, you finally get a close outside and a new high. Here I think you want to wait on the lower high or second entry, which doesn't, and it actually went higher and turned and went out the other side. Again, that's a big bar, and we're still getting some of those, so there's not much you can do except take them. In this case, you could have let it break lower here and dropped a limit order back, and you could have got filled, you know, several ticks back in that. But the fact that it went out the top and then turned and went out the bottom, I'd want to have my sell stop sitting there waiting on it. It didn't go very far before it reversed, and it's a little tempting to go long here, but the way I read it, I didn't like going long right there. But if you saw it this way, the way I've got it now, and you want to be, I mean, you got to close outside and then you low and then a reversal. And if you draw that trend line right off those first couple there, um, you know, that's a little bit tempting. There's a little bit of a trap down there in the whole 9 yards. So you might consider that to the long side. And then notice how you're moving up. You don't really get another chance here. Then you get a close outside and you got 2 legs up and then you're moving down. And so this one's coming up. You get a close outside, move to a new high, and then you're moving down. Close up outside, move to a new high, and then you moved over. You really didn't go lower, but you went back over to the trend line. So you really had a nice clue when it was going to correct every time, because the trend line playing out, you get a close outside, so be ready for a correction. You're moving up, you finally get a close outside, correction. You're moving up, you get a close outside, correction. So it gave you the clues that you needed all day long. So, but anyway, you're moving up, you get a close outside. This one you got 2 legs up, and then it turned down. But I wouldn't be looking for shorts yet, not with this trend line possibly still in play. And then, of course, here you're moving down, a close outside, and you tried to go lower, but what does it do? It bounces right off of right off that key entry point. This is not a perfect. I went back and forth about whether or not to make this one green or not, because this is not a great, it's not a terrible signal bar, but it, you know, it's not great either. So it's a little iffy. So you might let it break higher and try to get a little better entry just in case, but it takes on off. And you would have got a better entry because it backed up, but it takes on off. It's really a double test of over here. Notice how we got that support. I didn't draw the line, but let me put it on there just so everybody can see it. So you can see we tested that several times and then came back in the trend line and the EMA held. So, you know, you figure you're probably moving higher. And off it goes. Pull back, move to a new high, and then it comes back, and look what happens. You got a new high, pull back first entry, and then it goes lower again and goes back out again. So that's still a second entry. And you got that little trap. I don't know if you can see it. Let me make it bigger. Notice how it breaks lower. So this is really a little bit, you know, it's a trap, but the main thing is really off the key entry point. Notice it's at the EMA and the trend line. I mean, a nice bullish bar. You got the whole, and it actually went down and turned and went out the upper side. You got the whole works going on there. I like entering on that one. And again, it's moving up. You get a close outside, and then we get the correction back to the other side. It doesn't come down this time. It just goes sideways. So if you looked at this like it's kind of flat, which really it was up here originally, and you had a little failed break lower, and then you came back and tested it again and again. And that's not a great signal bar, but did you get that double test rule right there? And it's just a small bar, so it's relatively low risk. If it breaks above that, we're probably going on higher. So that's why I like that one. It's the key entry point. If you'd have waited on a better entry, you wouldn't have got one here. And then notice what happens. You finally get a close outside this trend line, and you pull back first entry, pull back second entry, and you get a nice bullish bar here. You're actually coming down, you get a little close outside, move to a new low. You're usually better to wait on that higher low, but it doesn't come till over here, so it's after 2 o'clock. But I wouldn't have been afraid to enter right there. So anyway, not a lot of trades today. The market was not quite as volatile. We're still getting some big bars and some nice little moves here, but it's not nearly as volatile is what we have been seeing. Doesn't mean that it won't be that way tomorrow or the next day, but maybe we're kind of getting back to a more normal. I like a little volatility when it moves like that. I don't like it when it's too crazy, like a couple of those days we had, but generally more movement, it just makes it easier when you find the key entry points. But again, look where all the big moves came from. Key entry point, key entry point. This was just a correction on a key entry point. This was a key support resistance area. That's where that's all prices were doing here. We're trying to come back and test that breakout area. This was a nice move here. Where is it? Off the support. And there's no difference between this support and this support. One of them's just flat and one of them's angled. It's still support and resistance. And that's generally where your key entries come from. Look, coming down where your big moves came from. This is still a key entry point move. It's off this, plus it's the first break of your trend line, so it's still a key entry. There's your off the trend line key entry. So that's where your big moves are going to come from. And if you can find these places, it makes it a whole lot easier. So, but anyway, there's not much else to talk about today, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to wrap it up and get this uploaded for you. Hope you had a good trading day. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.